Good evening. We are ready to begin this meeting of the Kokomo City Board of Zoning Appeals. I would first of all ask if you have a cell phone, if you please turn that to silent or vibrate or off. And then I would invite you to please stand and join us for a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Alrighty, our first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from last month's meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Seconded.
Moved and second to approve those minutes. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. I do note, is Ms. Rank not coming?
She is supposed to be here.
Okay, so we have a 5-member voting board. It takes 3 votes in favor of a case to, or yes, a case, 3 votes in favor to approve it. Currently, we have 4 of those voting members present, so hopefully our 5th member is here. But when we don't have a full board, I like to mention that to petitioners in case you decide you would like to wait until all 5 voting members are here. So just want to point that out to you, and if your case comes up and you say, well, I'd rather wait and make sure the 5th member is here, we can push yours back until the next, as soon as our 5th member gets here. Is that fine?
Till next month. If they request a continuance, it would be next month.
It'll be next month.
Okay. So if she's not here when your case is up, then you can ask for continuance for until next month. Okay. Mr. Sheeline,
Yes.
ready for you.
Well, yeah, before we get started, I just want to say that obviously this is going to be Beth's last meeting with us for a while for reasons that are fairly apparent to everybody, I would hope. So I just wanted to wish her well, and we'll see you here in a few months. So the first case we have tonight, Mr. President, case 1 AA17, the Burkhart is going to be continued again. My assumption is we'll hear that in July.
Okay.
So our first case we're hearing tonight is case 5 SE18. Petition of Miles Handy requesting a special exception for operating a kennel commercial in the C1 zone, section 3.29, on property described as part of Lot 4 in the southeast quarter of section 36, Township 24, Range North, Range 3 East, Center Township, Howard County, Indiana, at 220 East Markland Avenue. And Mr. Brand is here for this case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just 1 second, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion on this case?
I move that we approve case number 5 SE18 and adopt the findings of the petitioner as those of the board and make those findings part of our record.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. Have any board members had any ex parte communication regarding this case?
No.
Okay, now we're ready to hear your case. It's Mr. If you'll state your name and address for the record.
Go ahead. I didn't bring my readers.
Okay. My name's Hal Metz. My address is 1600 Cadillac Drive West, Kokomo 46902. The petitioner's finder of fact. The proposal will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community.
Mr. Metz, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm going to ask, would you, before you go into your findings, could you just kind of tell us what it is that why we're here, what it is you're wanting to do?
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
And if you'll give your name and address.
My name is Miles Handy. I live at 313 North Leeds here in downtown Kokomo. So what we're doing there is, besides painting it and upgrading it a little bit and tightening it up, is having a doggy daycare. So when people work downtown, they got a place to drop off. If they're working at Chrysler, they drop them off. Also, we're going to be doing some grooming, we're also doing some training there for obedience and that. So that's it in a nutshell. So we've got about 7,000 square feet in the back that we put field turf down so the dogs can run on field turf. We got some various toys and stuff that the dogs play with, and so it's kind of a daycare for dogs, basically.
So will there be overnight boarding or?
There'll be some overnight boarding. All the boarding is inside, so the dogs are not outside, in the wee night. So primarily the daycare is 9 to 5. The overnights can be overnight, but the dogs are inside and they're not outside, so they're not really a hindrance on any noise issues or anything like that.
So during the 9 to 5, will the dogs be outside that whole time, or will it be?
No, I mean, it depends. Like this past few days, it's been extremely warm, so it's air conditioned inside. But if it's a nice day like today, we have the door open. They go run in and out, and play inside and outside. So. In like a daycare environment of human or kids, should I say? I mean, the dogs learn each other's behaviors and they play, with each other, and it's a really good thing because a lot of dogs that have social anxiety issues come in and we work with them to make them a more rounded dog, so somebody can walk them through Foster Park or through the neighborhoods and not have a dog jump up or anything like that, or be scared. Some dogs get scared, even walking them around traffic. So those are some of the things that we're doing there.
Okay. And I think I just have 2 more questions, and sooner or later we'll get to the findings of fact, but we want to kind of know what we're talking about before we get to those. Is this just Monday through Friday, or is it a 7-day a week?
No, it'll be 7 days a week.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
Okay. And then do you have in mind cap maximum number of dogs you would have?
Well, it's a pretty good size area, but we've got we probably wouldn't have more than 25 dogs at a time. So you're not having a lot of dogs there.
All right.
A lot of them are ankle biters or dogs, but they're really guinea pigs that bark. They're small breed dogs.
All right, thank you. Any other board members have questions about what the case is before we hear that? Okay, Mr. Metz, if you could go ahead and share with us the findings.
I apologize for being out of order.
No, you're totally fine.
I am generally out of order. The petitioner's findings of fact. The proposal will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Pet's Choice K 9 to 5 will maintain the highest standards of pet care and hygiene. Regular reviews of the business and its processes will be performed to identify and remedy potential issues related to pet care and hygiene. There are many recognized benefits of pet ownership, especially dogs. Pet's Choice 9 to 5 will enhance the value of pets to homes, families, and the community. The requirements and development standards for the requested use as prescribed by this zoning ordinance will be met. The buildings meet minimum requirements for front and side back requirements on this zoning distance. Pet's Choice K9 to 5 will meet and comply with all zoning requirements, development standards, city and county ordinances. Because this location is ideal for services provided to the community, no major development will be required. Granting the exception will not subvert the general purposes served by this zoning ordinance and will not permanently injure other property or uses in the same district and vicinity. Pet's Choice 9 to 5 is located on a main thoroughfare in an area zoned for business. The property is bordered by 3 streets, and there is a vehicular repair business adjacent to the back of the property. Pet's Choice will have no impact on the surrounding businesses. The proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district therein, the spirit and intent of this zoning ordinance, and the city and the Kokomo comprehensive plan. Pet's Choice is not only consistent with the character of the district it is in, Pet's Choice will enhance the character of the district as a place to do business. Pet's Choice K-9 to 5 will draw traffic with disposable income to the district that would otherwise not visit the vicinity. There are several car dealerships on the same thoroughfare that depend on drive-by traffic. They will benefit by the increased traffic. In addition, the business is located in the Main Street and Markland Avenue Business District will be in clear view of traffic coming to Pet's Choice K-9 to 5. This will increase the awareness of these unique businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Sheeline, would you
Yes.
like to share the staff findings of fact?
Staff findings for Case 5, SE 18, the proposal will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The staff agrees the proposal will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. This part of Kokomo is Zone C1, which is for small to medium-scale general commercial businesses, which this business is. By granting the special exception, an otherwise vacant and unappealing structure will now be occupied and hopefully improved upon in one of the city's main thoroughfares. The staff acknowledges it has received 2 complaints, one anonymous, about the nature of this business and therefore recognizes that residential occupants in the area may be affected and/or annoyed by aspects of this kennel. The staff has and will continue to remind Pet's Choice that it has a responsibility to ensure it complies with the city's nuisance ordinances concerning noise and odors. The requirements and development standards for the requested use as prescribed by this zoning ordinance will be met. The building meets the minimum requirements for front and side yard setbacks in this zoning district. The building does meet most of the required development standards for the C1 zone, and it does not plan on making any major developments to the property. When our code enforcement officer went to the property, there was no dumpster on site. A dumpster with enclosure that meets setback standards will be required for this site. The staff also strongly suggests putting in a grass yard to the rear of the business rather than AstroTurf for the animals' needs. The granting of the exception will not subvert the general purposes served by this zoning ordinance and will not permanently injure other property or uses in the same district and vicinity. The granting of this exception will not subvert the general purposes served by this zoning ordinance. One of the express special exception uses in a C1 district is a commercial kennel. Again, the staff recognizes that the granting of this special exception may affect the residential property owners in the vicinity, but does believe Pet's Choice will continue to make accommodations to minimize any disturbances this business may generate. The proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district therein, the spirit and intent of this zoning ordinance, and the Kokomo Comprehensive Plan. The City of Kokomo Comprehensive Plan calls for this area to be used as general commercial and the adjacent area for high-density residential uses. A commercial kennel is compatible with the commercial aspects of this area. The staff will forward a favorable recommendation on the basis that the business has taken and will continue to take steps to ensure it will not be a disturbing presence in the area, i.e. soundproofing, housing noisy animals, taking animals inside promptly, adding a dumpster and enclosure to the property.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we've heard the petitioner's findings, we've heard the staff findings. Do any board members have questions for the petitioner or staff at this time?
I have a couple. On the front of our handout, we stated that you have to have this special exception if you keep more than 4 adult dogs. He was asked by Mr. Jensen earlier how many dogs you think you would have. Is there a limited number on dogs that you are allowed to have, or do you have to have a license to be a
Daycare?
kennel when you overnight? Do you have any?
No, not that I'm aware of.
So there's no maximum limitations that you could have.
Well, I mean, you know, we've got certain amount of runs, and that's why I would only put, we only put a certain amount of dogs in each run. And they're not even like runs, they're like, we call them flats or suites, so.
Are you required to have a cage for each individual pet animal?
No. No, they free roam most of the day. I mean, that's the point of having a daycare. I mean, there's places where they can put a dog in a cage and he doesn't get out all day.
Sure.
Well, this is kind of more humane to where the dogs free roam and enjoy being out and about and socializing.
Thank you.
I assume you don't have pets, you don't have dogs every night in the kennel,
I hope so.
but right now, are you having, every night have you had pets?
Well, I have a couple. I have my dogs there.
Oh, you keep them every
Yeah,
night
I
also?
keep some dogs there.
And how about employees? Are there?
No,
are
no
there
one sleeps
humans
there. No one sleeps there.
Okay, so what's the earliest someone gets there then to let the
This
dogs
morning
out?
I was there at 7 a.m. for a drop-off.
And they left, and they're
They
alone for
drop-
how long?
Pardon me?
They're alone for how long overnight?
Oh, they're long. You know, if they're usually probably 6-7 hours at the most, but they're usually so tired from the day activities that they sleep like rocks, and so that's a good benefit. So they sleep like babies.
How close is the closest house, residential?
There's a residential rental house that is probably, from the building itself, I don't know, maybe 100 feet maybe or so. She utilizes our parking lot, so we have a good relationship with her. I mean, we let her park in our parking lot.
And at nighttime, are the dogs allowed to run outside, or are they inside?
They're inside, the majority. At night, occasionally, we come up and let them out if we think that, let's say it might have rained all day and they didn't get out enough. But, I mean, we're not, it's not like a free-for-all out there in the middle of the evening. So it'd be just basically so they could use the restroom and come back.
Is the rental property to the north and then just a little bit to the east?
It would be to,
South Market.
it would be,
So if you walked out of the building, it'd be the back right corner?
yes, that is.
And then the auto repair shop is behind you to
Right.
the left.
Yeah, and then there's a tow yard, which is owned by the same, my landlord, Mrs. Collins.
Okay, are there other questions or comments from the board? Okay, is there anyone in the audience who would like to be heard regarding this case? Have anything to? Nope. Okay, is there anything either of you would like to add?
Nope, we look forward and welcome all Kokomo dogs to K9 to 5.
It is also a good thing that we do have employed more people than were in the city prior to opening the business.
So I will go back to council's question. So you said you went at 7 this morning, and you said the dogs through the night are maybe alone 7 hours, 6 or 7 hours. So will there be a staff member there until midnight or 1 typically?
No, never.
Okay, so.
Usually they're usually inside, probably say 7 o'clock till the morning, So we feed about 4 o'clock, let them get their dinner, and then we'll, wind them down. And I mean, after a full day of play, they're tired. I mean, it would.
About 12 hours indoors then probably. Evening time, 6 or 7 until, like you mentioned, you got.
Yeah. So
what?
But a lot of those dogs are, a lot of the dogs are daycare dogs that they get picked up by the owner at 5, 6 o'clock. So they're not just overnight.
Okay.
So we're more into daycare.
And I'll just throw this out there. Not all board members, not all current board members were board members when we had a similar case that came before us. So I'm trying to remember some of the things that were concerned, some of the questions we had. But tied in with that, so what kind of, I'll say, security system would you have, let me say it this way, what kind of security system would the dogs have if you're not there and something happens at the building, like, God forbid, but say a fire or something? Maybe that's not a question for this board. I don't know. Just tell me if it's not.
I mean, we got a fire extinguisher, so, God forbid something happened like that.
I guess I'm just wondering, if there's like a monitoring, like if you'll be able to.
Well,
Maybe I'm not asking for answers.
yeah. We are looking into doing some different stuff as far as monitoring to where we can even have video on the internet. We're not at that point yet, to where like if you go away on a cruise and you want to see what your dog's doing, we pipe it in. So, we try to do, we're looking into that, but we haven't done that at this point.
All right, thank you. One more time, anyone on the board have any questions or concerns?
I'd just like to make a statement, Mr. Chairman, since you brought it up. The last case that we had, I believe if you look, the closest resident to that place was a good 10 lots away. The closest.
I think that was the second time they came to us, right? The first time it was like right next door.
And then they relocated, and they found that place, and there's quite a bit of business and space between where they're located and the first residential residence.
Is this the only purpose of the building, of the facility? Just the daycare and the...
Well, I utilize it as my office too.
Okay.
So,
Customers/clients would only come for the daycare and overnight boarding?
Daycare, or like I said, I have a
I
many.
just didn't know if there was retail business there as well, or it's...
Well, we're going to have some retail items there, like dog toys, if they want a dog toy or something like that, sure.
I would just like quickly to let the board members know that everything that Mr. Handy is doing here is legal, except for the overnight boarding. That's why he's before us. Everything else that he's doing currently now is legal. It's a permitted use in the C1 zone. The only reason he's here tonight is to try to get the special exception so he can continue the overnight boarding. I just didn't want anyone to be confused. Everything else he's doing there is already legal under a permitted use. Okay?
And for those of you who are maybe sitting here saying they're thinking we might be speaking a foreign language, two of the main things this board does is we grant variances, and that means in layman's terms, I guess, we change the law for a property. The other thing that's the other most common action this board takes is on a request like this, which is a special exception. So we're not changing the law, but within the law, you're allowed to do certain things if you ask, and that's where we are right now. That's what Mr. Sheeline is just pointing out, that this is a special exception case, which is a little bit easier for this board to look at, in my opinion. So thank you for pointing that out. Okay, if we have no other questions, concerns from the board, no one from the audience. We do have someone from the audience. Okay, if you'll step to the microphone, please. We'll need you to state your name and address for the record, and go ahead.
Okay, my name is Samuel Hall, and I was just wondering, I have a pet, Pomeranian, and I travel a lot. And to board my dog, I board him a lot. But to board my dog with nobody there overnight, with the purpose? I could leave him at home. So that's why I take him to the vet, because I don't want to leave him alone at night. What if he gets sick?
Well, that's your...
That's just my question.
That's your choice as an owner, but I would like to say that...
Mr. Handy, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And anyone who happens to come before us this evening, we do ask you to use the microphone. It's not because we can't hear, it's because it is being recorded for the record, so thank you.
Thank you for your concern. Some people do like to leave their dog at the veterinarian. The veterinarians, will take care of the dogs too, but I guarantee you they don't stay there 24/7. And we have a 10,000 roughly square foot play area, so that's kind of the benefits. Your dog is free ranging with other dogs that are vaccinated, healthy, on flea prevention. We make sure as far as screening as aggressive dogs and non-aggressive dogs. So we do all this to assure safety. At this point, we've been fortunate. I've been in the pet industry for over 30 years. Started out of college, So this is just one other level that, I thought there was a need in this community for. But like I said, no one's there 24/7, but we are there the majority of the day.
Okay.
But the dogs are, trust me, they're sleeping. Bring your black lab. I mean, we have a black lab or a chocolate lab that comes 3 days a week, and he probably gets thrown probably 200 tosses a week, along with they got tug toys, they got all kinds of things that they tug. They're just worn out. So if you got a dog full of energy, needs a place to unwind, send them to us. We'll take care of them.
Thank you. All right, we do have a motion for the approval of case 5 SE18 that has been seconded as well. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. All those opposed indicate by saying nay.
Nay.
Roll call vote, it sounds like.
Mr. Besser?
Nay.
Ms. Rink is not here. Mr. Hiker?
Nay.
Mr. Myers?
Yeah.
There's not enough votes, and you'll have to vote, Mr. President.
I would vote yes.
So at this time, we have a 2-2 vote, so it will have to come
Again,
before us next month,
again.
correct?
See you next month.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, our next item on the agenda is case 6 SE18.
Yes, the petition of Tim Martin for Advantix requesting a special exception for a multifamily dwelling, 17 units or more, in an M2 zone at 711 North Purdom Street. Mr. Martin is here for this case.
I have a motion on case 6 SE18.
Did you have your Matt expert take communications about it?
I make a motion, we approve 6 SE18.
Can you throw the rest in just so we have?
And adopt the findings of the petitioner or those of the board and make those findings part of the record and any additional comments.
All righty, thank you. Have a second?
Aye, yeah, second.
All right, thank you. Have any board members had any ex parte communication regarding case 6 SE18?
No.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Martin, if you'll state your name and address for the record and tell us what it is that brings you here this
Sure. Tim Martin, I'm Chief Operating Officer for Advantix Development Corporation. My address is 402 Court Street, Evansville, Indiana, 47708. If I may, Mr. President, I'd like to pass out some material about the project before we start.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We are seeking variances for this project on Purdom, yet to be named. We're working with the city on naming the project for a permanent name, which will go along with our future applications. This is a permanent supportive housing development which will have 35 units of housing which will provide housing opportunities for homeless families that are in this community. This will be the first and only housing of its type, not only in this community but in this county. This will work with a continuum of care. I have members of Ford County here, as well as Deb Cook with the Housing Authority. We'll talk about who we're going to serve, about the need here in the city of Kokomo. But I'm going to talk about a little bit about the property itself. This is a 3-story courtyard design. We have accessible and adaptable units throughout. Laundry on each floor, about 10,000 square feet of living space per floor. Again, as far as parking, we're talking about parking variances, some setbacks. I can't remember the other items on the agenda. would deal with coverage. But again, this will be the first and only permanent supportive housing for homeless families here in the community. We have an application for low-income housing tax credits due July 30th. If we're successful, we'll find out in November, and then we would begin construction in the spring of 2019.
Will there be anyone staying here to kind of facilitate, to kind of monitor? By monitor, I mean to be kind of a source of or a resource, or will all apartments be occupied by?
The residents are families. Again, the staffing will have, we've got an MOU with Fort County Counseling, who's present today. They'll provide wraparound services for our families. We'll have on-site staff with management and maintenance, and we'll work through partner organizations to have overnight coverage as well in the property.
Thank you. All right. Would you like to add anything at this point? And if so, if you'll again state your name and address.
My name is Deborah Cook. I live at 1738 West Walnut in Kokomo, and we are a partner in this project. We attended the Supportive Housing Institute. We were actually selected statewide. There were only 7 teams. We were one of 7. As a housing authority, we have families that we can't serve because of strict federal rules, and there's a long wait list. And this would serve homeless families in our region without a wait list, based on a need, based on an assessment by an organization here that's qualified to do that. It would also have office hours and wraparound services on site for families. And we see a lot of children impacted because of their parents' behaviors, and we wanted an option rather than them being on the streets. So we felt strongly this was an important project, and we are a partner in this project.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, so Fort County is partnering. You mentioned the city's support. Did you say others, or can you tell me maybe who else is saying go for this?
Who else is in support of the project?
Saying let's go for it.
Locally, or talking about throughout the state? Obviously, we were selected as a team to compete for the Supportive Housing Institute. Multiple applicants around the state. We presented the need here in Kokomo. We were selected based on the need, based on the capacity. Advantage Development Corporation has experience in permanent supportive housing. There's a project in Evansville called Vision 1505, which is the only supportive housing development in Evansville which serves families. So that's what brought us to the table. As far as other partners go, through the Fort County organization, the Continuum of Care, we work with service providers, referral agencies to provide a quality of life for our families. So there's multitudes of people that will work with our population. So the MOUs that we have established currently are for the application purposes. And that, again, was talking about Fort County, who will be our service provider. They'll be on site providing case management, referrals, wraparound services to our population.
Thank you.
Hi, David Tharp, Deputy Mayor of the City of Kokomo. I live at 1027 West Walnut Street. Speaking to the other community partners that are supporting this project, as was mentioned, Mayor Goodnight and the administration are supporting this development because this is a great way to house 35 families with children that are facing substance abuse issues. I do want to recognize County Commissioner Paul Wyman is here. County Commissioner Paul Wyman is president of the Systems of Care. There are several of the members of the executive board for Systems of Care, which is tackling substance abuse and other issues here in our community. I want to thank Paul for his leadership and Paul and the board for their support of this project. This fits in line with how we are going to combat our portion of the heroin and opioid epidemic in our community, and a great way to keep families together as they seek support. So to speaking to those other partners, both hospitals are involved in that executive board, city and county government working together, trying to find ways to tackle this, and we think this is a very important part of that.
So Systems of Care is
Systems of Care is supporting this project, yes.
So is it, for residents, is it a requirement? I mean, don't say requirement, but they will be probably people who have struggled with the drugs?
I'll let Deb speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it will be folks that, where the head of household and/or co-head of household suffer with substance use disorder. And we don't have any sort of family-oriented treatment to keep those families together. And we see the impact on the children. We thought this was an important project to keep the services. When you have a substance use disorder in a family, it doesn't just affect the addict, it affects the entire family. So this is to serve and help offer services that wrap around the entire family. And this, again, there's no wait list. It's not for any other region but ours, and they have to come through the coordinated entry system, which means one of our local entities such as the Rescue Mission, Open Arms, CAM, one of those organizations had to have assessed that person or that family and put them at a high need to get them in here immediately.
Thank you. All right, any questions at this point before we hear the findings of fact? Mr. Martin, if you'll go ahead and share those with us.
Sure. Petitioner's finding of fact. The proposal will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The proposal will meet all requirements to avoid being injurious to the health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. The planned development will have a positive effect on the area. The requirements and development standards for the requested use as prescribed by this zoning ordinance will be met. The buildings will meet minimum requirements for front and side setback requirements on this zoning district. The project will adhere to all standards and requirements outlined in the zoning ordinance, and we are seeking variances for any changes needed. The granting of the section will not subvert the general purposes served by this zoning ordinance and will not permanently injure other properties or uses in the same district and vicinity. Overall, the neighborhood is residential. Adding a multifamily residential facility will not subvert the purposes of the zoning ordinance, nor will it injure the surrounding area. The proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district therein, the spirit and intent of this zoning ordinance, and the Kokomo Comprehensive Plan. This project meets the requirements of the Kokomo Comprehensive Plan for high-density residential use and fits the intent of the zoning ordinance.
Thank you. Staff findings?
Yes, staff findings for case 6 SE 18. The proposal will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The special exception will be beneficial to the community as a safe home for displaced individuals and families. The planned supportive multifamily dwelling will house 25 individuals and families whose head and/or co-head of household suffers from substance use disorders or substance use disorders with co-occurring mental illness, and will include wraparound services from 4 county counseling. These supportive services will be invaluable to the public health, safety, and general welfare of our community. The requirements and development standards for the requested use as prescribed by this zoning ordinance will be met. The buildings meet the minimum requirements for front and side yard setback requirements in this zoning district. The new multifamily dwelling will be built within required setbacks and outside any recorded easements. There are 8 parking spaces planned on site and 17 spaces planned for the street, for a total of 25 spaces for the 35 units. In many cases, the individuals and families to be served by this facility will not have cars, so the parking provided should accommodate their needs. The planned 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments will be smaller than the allowed minimum floor areas to efficiently maximize the number of individuals that can stay in this facility. See case 9B18 for additional information on plan variances. The granting of the exception will not subvert the general purposes served by this zoning ordinance and will not permanently injure other property or uses in the same district and vicinity. A new modern housing facility that will infill what is almost an entire block of currently vacant lots will improve the character of the neighborhood and the property values of the lots within. Because of the high-density residential nature of the area, the structure should not negatively impact adjacent property owners. The proposed use will be consistent with the character of the district therein, the spirit and intent of this zoning ordinance and the Kokomo Comprehensive Plan. The area is earmarked by the City of Kokomo Comprehensive Plan for high-density residential uses, and the surrounding areas are planned to be high and medium-density residential. As the surrounding area is currently a high-density residential area, this use is consistent with the overall spirit of the area. The planned development will be the first and only permanent supportive housing currently available for families in our region. Kids Count, a national data center, reports that as of 2016, Howard County documented 444 homeless or housing unstable students. This project will offer 30 families and 5 individuals for support to gain much-needed stability and safety. The staff gives a favorable recommendation for granting this special exception in order to build a multifamily dwelling of 35 units.
Thank you. All right, a couple other questions I have, and whoever can answer, if you'll answer, I mean, whoever has the best, I guess. Is it, so a family moves in, do they stay indefinitely until they say, you know what, we're gonna move somewhere else? Do they stay until hopefully life is, their feet are on solid ground and they say, you know what, we're ready to buy a house or move out on our own? Or they can stay, once their substance abuse issue is taken care of, they're allowed to continue to stay, or do they move on? I mean, is that part of the transit, or part of the wraparound services? I guess, does that make sense?
Sure.
Or all of a sudden do we, hopefully, ideally, we have no drug issues? That would be a beautiful thing. But once all 35 families are good to go, do we open rooms for others?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. So this is permanent supportive housing. This is not transitional housing, first of all, which means if a person chooses to stay into perpetuity, they can do so. However, that's not our goal. Our goal is to do exactly what you've described, provide services, work with our families, and hopefully move them out to stable, productive lives. As far as an end of need for homeless housing, I can't predict the future, but this project specifically is permanent supportive. There is not any transitional housing here, so they can choose to stay. We do not have a time limit. However, they do have life plans and goals, and we'll work with those families to hopefully be successful and move out and provide opportunities for others to move in behind them.
Okay, and the rent, is that set or is it sliding? Or?
These are low-income housing tax credit units, so they are affordable, and their rents are based on 30% of their adjusted gross income, based on the bedroom size and the fair market rents.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board at this point? Is there anyone? Oh, sorry.
To be clear, the future residents of this location, they're current residents within the Kokomo area?
No, these are individuals that are homeless, that are working through the coordinated entry program, which will be referred to the project at that time.
Any other questions from up here? Anyone in the audience who'd like to be heard regarding this case?
My name is Darrell Walker. I live at 4042 Highland Springs. Although I do not live in the neighborhood that you are looking to build a unit, I do own property over there, and I have family and friends over there. I'm not against what you're doing, but my only thing is that area is not such a good area already. Why would you want to bring more people into the area that's going to make them eat? I don't think they're going to get better over there, put it that way. And that, in my opinion, is going to bring the property values down. With them, with that many people having issues in one spot.
Okay. Thank you for that question, Mr. Walker. I'm going to we've had several people address why they're here this evening, so I'm going to let you guys decide who addresses Mr. Walker's question.
David Tharp, Deputy Mayor of the City of Kokomo. This project will actually be, the project that you're voting on tonight will actually be at the cornerstone of a redevelopment project for the entire neighborhood. If you look around the neighborhood, the largest landowner is actually the City of Kokomo. The City County Wellness Clinic is in the area. There are a lot of vacant lots. The questioner is correct. The neighborhood does need a shot in the arm, needs some love. And so what we are looking at doing is actually coupling this project with our city's the Redevelopment Commission's ongoing urban infilling project. We'll rebuild new single-family market-rate homes in the neighborhood. One of our next phases will be to build new housing in this neighborhood for families to come in and purchase at market rate, not subsidized. These will be actually built by local home builders, more than likely, sold by local realtors. There'll be a sign in the yard for a family to come in, bring in new stakeholders to the neighborhood, and hopefully this project over time will help bring that neighborhood more investment, more life, and more stakeholders.
Thank you.
Like I was saying, that part I understand, and I agree with that. It does need more housing over there. It's the people that you're bringing into that neighborhood. They already have a problem. Their neighbor has a problem. You're bringing more problems into a neighborhood, saying it's going to get better, but in my opinion, it's not. I can't see it getting better. If you keep bringing water into a flooded area, it's not going to get better. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
That was my.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from.
Okay.
One reason why at the very beginning of this, I'm asking all these people to tell me who is part of this. And your question is the same question that I brought to the table, and that's why I want to know whose hand is in this,
right?
Who's being part of this team, and the groups that I'm hearing, and my job outside of here, we're all just citizens that have been asked to serve on this board. And my job outside of here, these are organizations that I have contact with, that I've referred people to because I trust them, because I know the work they do in the community. And when I started hearing the names of the different organizations, I think your fears could be alleviated, because I don't think any one of those groups that have been mentioned, I don't think any one of those groups would put an individual or a family in harm's way.
Okay.
It's amazing. As a matter of fact, I got a message last night. I'm going to pull out my phone if you guys will excuse me. I got a message last night from a former student of mine. The first thing she sent me was a video of her child's kindergarten graduation. And she followed that up with this. She said, "My baby graduated." And I said, "Congratulations." Her response was, "Mr. Jansen, will you please keep us in your prayers? I just got out of prison, and I am still addicted to meth, causing me to miss out on this graduation and more with my kids and my family. I need help." And I said, "Yes, I will. Have you heard of Systems of Care Turning Point here in Kokomo? This is a group that was just mentioned." She said, "No, I have not." And I said, "Let me see if I can find out if it's an organization that can help you at this point." And I sent a message to someone with Systems of Care, to the, Sherry's position is navigator. Sent her a screenshot of that part of the conversation, and I asked her, "Is this someone you can help?" And Sherry said, "Definitely. You have her call me in the morning." And the girl, I didn't follow up yet, but she confirmed. So when I heard Systems of Care, and this is the kind of person we're talking about. This lady just got out of prison. This former student of mine just got out of prison. She's saying, I missed my child's graduation from kindergarten. I'm not missing my child's graduation from middle school or high school or college ever again." These are the groups. At my work, people come to my work on a regular basis, at least, I would say at least once a week. And they're the people that I'm like, wow, this is the first answer. People come and say, "We're living in our car. We have 3 kids. They're living in the back seat. We're living in the front seat. We don't have a place to go. Can your church help us?" We try to partner with places as much as we can, and we partner as much as we can with these groups that were mentioned here. So Mr. Walker, I guess what I'm saying is, when I first came in here, that was my question, and that's why I asked, who is part of this? Whose fingerprints are on this project? I have 100% confidence.
So they will monitor and make sure that,
I can tell you, without having, this is the first I've heard any information about this, other than knowing that we were voting on it. I drove by it. Any questions, any concerns I would have about this have been totally put to ease, knowing what who's involved in these organizations and knowing the impact they've already had. That systems of care that I just talked about, when they announced who their employees were, who the navigator, who the counselor, who the director, all these names, the principal of the school, where our church has a school in town, he was going to be at that meeting, but he couldn't be there. I sent him a text message and I said, dude, they have the A team leading this organization. This is what Kokomo needs. This is, as they've mentioned, just another piece of the puzzle. I appreciate your concern because it was 100% my concern as well. I didn't even know till this meeting. I knew what we were being asked to give permission for housing. I didn't know that it was to help homeless families. I didn't know, even when Mr. Martin first mentioned homeless families, I thought, you know what, we have homeless families coming all the time asking us, do you have a place we can stay? It breaks my heart to say no, because I know there are legitimate reasons. I didn't know until someone mentioned the drug aspect. I didn't know that drugs were part of this.
actually, that's my biggest concern. I mean, they can, if they're living there indefinitely, I mean, if they backslide, they fall back, you know, then you got drug dealers going in and out. I mean, with 30 units there, that's a lot of traffic.
Well, I'll tell you what, for every drug dealer who tries to get close to that, I would put money on it that you're going to have at least 5 people from these other organizations who are a barrier to them getting there. I can guarantee. And again, right now, what you've heard in this meeting tonight is the first I've heard any of the details of this. When I went by there, I've driven by there 2 or 3 times. Different times of day, different times of the week, because like you, I want to see what kind of activity's going on.
Right.
I want to see what's happening. And I'm the guy who's going to pull up and get out of my car and walk around and look around. And that's what I did. And I think now that I know more about it, I'm a little bit fired up in a good way. And I appreciate your concern. A lot of citizens stay at home and say, can you believe they didn't come up and ask questions like you are? So, yeah, I mean, the names behind this, you know, if you were buying stock in a company, you're like, I don't really know anything about this company. But then if you look back, and I'm saying not this company, but I'm saying if you were to say, you know what, I'm going to invest in the stock market. Here's a company I've never even heard of. But then you look at what other people have bought stock in that company, and it gives credibility to that. That's where I sit right now. When I look at this project and I see who's bringing this project, it's the petition is from Tim Martin for Advanix, and I don't remember the full name of the company, but that means nothing to me. I don't know who that is. I mean, Mr. Martin, this is the first time to be here.
Before.
Well, I was going to say, you look familiar. Yeah. But it's his first time for this project.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Still, Advanix, I haven't looked it up. I don't know. But when I'm hearing all these other people involved, I'll sleep well tonight if this passes.
Okay.
And if it doesn't, I'll be wondering what's going to happen to those 35 families.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Again, I appreciate your time and your concern.
No problem.
Thank you. All right, we're going to have a baby up here if we don't keep this going.
Really, really warm.
All right. All right.
Let's speed up a little bit.
Do we have a doctor in the house just in case? If you need to go, yeah. Yeah, no, we don't want to.
Let's relax. I have been involved in the organizations that have been referred here, so I have zero concern about who gets in the buildings. I have had people who were accepted, and I have had people that I'm working with that were rejected. And the reason they were rejected was they would be disruptive in the home that they would be in. My question is, if we have someone who has a drug problem and, as was described, they backslide, is there something built into the program that will reach out and address that issue and remove that particular problem from the building if it is truly a problem?
So a couple questions all along the same theme. I want to make sure everybody understands this is not a wide open, do what you want, no repercussion type of a property. There are house rules, there is a lease. Everybody has to abide by the lease. It's managed. But we provide supportive services on site to work with people to prevent evictions rather than just start throwing people out and recreating homelessness. So every individual will be worked with, and there'll be case managers assigned to them, and whatever the issues may be or arise during their time in the property, they'll have services to help them with that. So it won't be rampant people coming in and out. It'll be a controlled property. We'll have security. We'll have on-site presence by management. We'll have good relations with law enforcement in the community because they're a partner in the program in ending homelessness, because they see homeless people where they live, in the streets, under the bridges. So this is a large project, and we invite people to come in and be a part of the project. We're not closed from the community. We're inviting the community to come in and participate with us. So the answer to the question is, yeah, there'll be services. They'll have wraparound supportive services for their entire time.
All right. Thank you. All right, anyone else have anything to add before we take a vote? Mr. Hall, correct?
Correct. Sammy Hall again. I live at 2824 Braden Drive in Kokomo, but I do own property in that area, and I would like to know what's going to happen to my property in that area in order for you to put your bill in there.
What's going to happen to your property?
Yeah, in the area where you're talking about building it, which is right there, right down on Bale and Monroe.
Vale and Monroe.
The properties that we are locating this project on are all controlled by the city. So there's no private lots that we're looking at acquiring. We have the space that we're asking to build on as you see it presented in the site plan. So there's nothing outside of that footprint that we're looking at currently. So I don't know any effect on your property.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Okay, name and address.
Terry Roach, 1100 South Buckeye. I think it's a good thing. A lot of these people don't understand it. These people have programs. That's what helps the addict. All these programs. That's what you're not hearing, brother. They got programs to keep them off drugs. And I thank God for this. I really do, because this town needs this.
All right, thank you. All right. Well, we've heard plenty here this evening. We do have a motion for the approval of case 6 SE 18. Has been seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Just have them come back.
Do you want to skip down?
Yes, let's just go ahead and do that.
Okay, we're going to jump down to case 9V18. It's a continuation of this case, which wouldn't have mattered if it didn't pass. But since we're here, we'll go ahead so he doesn't have to readdress everything. Mr. Sheila.
Yeah, I'll just read a portion of case 9V18, the petition of Tim Martin for Advantix, requesting the variance to allow public parking spaces to be counted towards off-street parking to section 6.46A, the second variance of 45 parking spaces to section 6.46A, and a third variance of 340 square feet to section 3.18, minimum floor area per unit in an M2 zone at 711 North Purdom Street. And these are obviously the variances for the case that we just heard.
Okay, do I have a motion on case 9V18?
I move that we approve case 9V18 and adopt the findings of the petitioner and those of the board and make those findings part of the record. Matt, any additional comments?
Okay. Have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. Any board members, I'm going to guess, but any board members have any ex parte communication in this case? No? Okay, if you can go ahead and explain what are the variances now that we need to take into consideration here.
Thank you. Tim Martin, Advanced Development Corporation, 402 Court Street, Evansville, Indiana. These variances are for parking requirements in order for our project to be moved forward. We're asking for the attached variances to be approved today.
Okay. We see, staff members see here, as you kind of skim through, plans include using on-street parking, cumulative total parking using only 25 parking spaces. Continues on there. It shows us, the second page shows us where the 17 on-street parking spaces will be located. Blue highlighted areas where the 8 off-street spaces will be located. Next page also talks about the on-street parking, cumulative total, etc. Petitioner seeking the variance to use on-street parking towards our total parking. That has been done before in other cases we've heard fairly recently. And Mr. Martin, if you go ahead with your findings of fact on this case.
Petitioner's finding of fact, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The planned build will follow all requirements for public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The intended project will be a residential building, which will be consistent with its residential surroundings. The completion of this project will not be a negative impact on the surrounding area. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. If the variance is not granted, we will be unable to build this much-needed housing to the best advantage of the community.
Okay, thank you. Staff findings?
Staff findings for case 9B18. Approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The proposed variances will not create any safety hazards for the future tenants or the neighboring properties. The proposed structure will be built well within setback requirements and outside any recorded easements. The approval of these variances will allow a much-needed multifamily supportive housing facility to be built that will benefit the homeless population in our community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The surrounding area is vastly residential with street and private parking available to residents. Much of the target community for this project does not own vehicles, and 25 spaces should be enough for their use. 9 of the 11 lots earmarked for this development are currently completely vacant. Adding a new modern housing facility to the area would serve to improve the value of the property it is located on, as well as the surrounding area. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. If the variance for floor area is not granted, the petitioner will be unable to create the smaller 1 and 2 bedroom units. Losing these units will render the petitioner unable to serve as many in our community as possible and unable to use their current plans, resulting in a practical difficulty. If the variances for parking are not granted, the petitioner must alter their plans for the remainder of the lot area and lose the possibility for future development or desirable green space. Granting these variances will allow the petitioner to fully utilize the property in a way that is of the greatest help to 35 struggling individuals and families in our community.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board at this time on case 9B18? In the audience? All right, we do have a motion and a second for the approval of case 9B18. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, our next case to be heard this evening is case 7B18.
Yes, petition of Stanton and Charlene Foreman requesting a variance of 5 feet to section 3.12, side yard setback on south elevation, and a second variance of 136 square feet to section 6.10, cumulative square feet of all enclosed accessory structures for property at 2312 South Cortland Avenue. And Charlene is here to present the case.
Do I have a motion on case 7V18?
I move that we approve case number 7V18 and adopt the findings of the petitioner as those of the board, and make those findings part of our record.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any board members have any ex parte communication in this case?
No.
Okay, I do have a question before we go into it. You said a variance of 5 feet. The agenda in our packet says variance of 5 inches. Are we talking?
Should be 5 inches.
5 inches?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And if you need to
Actually,
address that, feel free.
I read it wrong. It was correct. I read it wrong, so I apologize. It is 5 inches.
Okay, just making sure. All right.
That is a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, and if you need to adjust the mic, feel free, and if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Charlene Foreman, 2312 South Cortland, Kokomo, Indiana, 46902. What we're wanting to do is rebuild our garage that's currently there and make it a little bit longer. We were within currently the garage is 1.7 inches from the property line, and we want to move it to 2.7 inches from the property line. Petitioner's findings of fact. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The garage is in the backyard and will not affect any of the above. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. A new garage will be more becoming to the neighborhood and would also be safe. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. The situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. The garage is old and becoming unsafe for us.
Thank you. Staff findings?
Staff findings for case 7V18. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The proposed structure will be located to the rear of the structure, away from the street, and will not hinder traffic views. Granting this variance will not allow the structure to encroach on any recorded easements. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Granting these variances will allow the petitioner to build a new, larger garage where the current structure has stood for around 70 years. A new modern garage will improve the value of the property and have a positive impact on the surrounding area. This structure will be consistent with the residential spirit of the area. The strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. If the requested variances are not granted, the petitioner will be forced to alter their existing plans to improve their property, will be unable to create the extra storage space they desire, and will not be allowed to fully utilize their property.
Good, thank you. The current garage, is it attached or detached?
Detached.
Detached, okay. I was trying to remember when I went by. I think I was just intrigued by the way the
Yeah.
cutout there in front was like.
Yeah. That used to be the end of the street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions or comments from anyone on the board?
Height of this garage? Same as the old?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyone in the audience wish to be heard regarding this case? Okay, well, there are no questions or comments from the board or the audience. We do have a motion for the approval of case 7G18. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, you'll go up to the Plan Commission and get your
Building permit?
building permit.
Thank you
Have
very
at it.
much.
All right, have a good evening. All right, our next case is case 8V18.
Yes, petition Brian Mass for Ace Automotive Services requesting a variance to section 6.9E to place an accessory structure in front yard, and a second variance of 4.5 feet to section 3.32, minimum side yard setbacks in the C2 zone on property at 201 West Morgan Street.
Thank you. Do I have a motion on case 9V8 or 8V18?
I move that we approve case number 8V18 and adopt the findings of the petitioner as those of the board, and make those findings part of our record.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any ex parte communication regarding this case?
No.
Okay, good deal. All right, if you'll state your name and address for the record, tell us what brings you here.
Okay. Brian Mast, 5943 East, 500 North, Kokomo. Petition address is 201 West Morgan. I'm looking to put a 12 by 24 building storage shed, portable storage shed on my lot. The variance I'm looking for is putting it in front of the building. I'm at the corner of Buckeye and Morgan, so all my available space is in between the building and streets. Second variance I'm looking for is to put it close to the south property line to get it out of the way, and so I have access to the shop area.
Okay. All right, and this will keep just equipment?
I've got snow blowers, lawnmowers. I've got some tools that don't use much. It just, right now I have a 6-bay service station or service center there. 1 bay is full of stuff that I'd like to make accessible to get cars in there and work on them.
Okay. All right, thank you. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the building itself sits to basically to the west property, almost to the west property line and almost to the south property line, right? I mean, it's kind of back in that corner, the southwest corner of the property.
Right.
So.
It would be very difficult to get this building, the new building, behind the existing building.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was.
I think there's 5 feet behind the building, something like that.
Yeah, so I'm just pointing that out because typically, traditionally, and there's a note we have here, an accessory structure usually is located to the rear or side of the primary structure, but on the primary structure, back in that corner, you don't have much of a side or rear yard. Okay, if you go ahead and share with us your findings of fact.
Petitioner's findings of fact. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The proposed structure would not have negative effect on the neighborhood. It will be a brand-new, nice-looking building that will be in the confines of an enclosed fenced area. The area is actually secured during off-business hours. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in substantially adverse manner. As stated above, this is going to be a newly built, good-looking building. It will be a positive addition to the neighborhood. It will also allow me to store some items currently sitting outside of my main building. The strict application of terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on perceived reduction or restriction of economic gain. Due to the growth in business, I am restricted to the space I have in the main building. This storage shed will allow me to store things from the main building and outside in an attractive manner. My property being on a corner lot only allows me to put the storage shed in between the building and the street. Also allowing me to set the storage shed along the south property line would put it in the most appealing location.
Okay, thank you. Staff findings?
Staff findings for case 8V18, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, general welfare of the community. The planned structure will be placed far enough from the street that it will not be hazardous to traffic or block vision. This structure will not encroach on any recorded easements. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Due to the fact that the property is a corner lot, the shed will not look out of place in the selected location. It will be placed to the side of the property as close to the back corner as it can be without obstructing the primary structure. Adding a new modern storage shed will have a positive impact on the value of the property. This storage shed will also allow the petitioner to store items previously located outside on his property, reducing clutter. A strict application of the terms of this zoning ordinance will result in a practical difficulty. This situation shall not be self-imposed, nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction of economic gain. The petitioner is faced with a practical difficulty in finding a place for his new structure as he is located on a corner lot, giving him 2 front yards rather than 1. Because of the petition of the primary structure, the only available placement for the structure is in one of the 2 front yards. In order to keep a lower profile and avoid obstructing the primary structure, the petitioner wishes to place the structure as close to the property line as possible. Without these variances, the petitioner will be unable to add much needed storage space to his property, unable to safely and neatly store his belongings, and unable to fully utilize his property as desired.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or concerns from the board?
How big will this
12 by 24 is what I'm looking for.
12 by 24?
Only gonna have one door?
It will have an entry door and probably roll-up door.
On which sides?
Really haven't decided that. I'm looking probably roll-up door on the east side, keep it out of the weather, and then north side for the entry door.
And a height consistent with your other building?
Yeah, it'll be shorter than the other buildings. It'll be a gable storage shed. It's probably, 10, 12 feet?
Any questions from up here? Anyone in the audience wish to be heard regarding this case? Okay, hearing no other questions, comments, concerns, we do have a motion for the approval of case 8V18. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, is there any other business to be brought before the Kokomo City Board of Zoning Appeals this evening?
I have no other business, Mr. President. Just want to thank everyone for their patience tonight.
Since we're still alive, I got a text from Lisa. She apologizes. She got called into work for a special meeting, and that's why she's not here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Whatever happened to AA 17?
Okay.
I announced that the
question was, question from the audience is, what happened to case 1, AA 17, the appeal hearing on Burkhardt advertising notice of violation letter? Sorry, Mr. Sheline said at the beginning that they've asked for continuance, so they will be at our next meeting, which is
July 3rd.
July 3rd at 5 p.m. in the same spot. So,
sorry you missed that.
sorry about that.
Here for the back row.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So thank you. If there's no other business, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Have a good night. Thank you all. Thank you.